live?
I can only do this way. We're live.
We're live? All right. So, guys, welcome to Roll with the Fox antivirus edition. I'm doing this sort of on the fly, so pardon me if I'm not as prepared as normally we are, because we usually do it first Friday of every month at 10:30 Eastern Time. What I'm going to try to do is to attempt to do this on a daily basis, subject to as the conditions evolve. So yesterday I made a very difficult decision. It took me 3 days to sort of read a lot of reports and and just news and stuff, so forth, and so decided to try to get ahead of this thing. I don't think we can stop the virus. I think the key is to slow it down to the point where the healthcare systems can deal with it. So I closed my school for 2 weeks. We never closed. We never closed during snowstorms. We're open Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. So this was a difficult decision, and Mike, you will have to stop and make so much movement.
I can't hear you. Talk a little louder.
Huh?
I can't hear you. Talk a little louder.
Don't worry, the mic is good. So, guys, pardon, we're sort of winging it. I got Enrique with me, and Mike is behind the camera. And the reason I chose these two guys is because their circle of contacts is very limited. First of all, I train with Enrique pretty much on a daily basis or every other day. So if he has it, I have it. If I have it, he has it. Mike does social media marketing, so he's usually at home on a computer. So again, his circle of contact is very limited. And I think that's the key. That's the reason why I closed down the school, is because trying to limit the circle of contact. Guys, understand the contact is not just like physical touch. And, there's different guidelines, but I think 5 feet or 1.5 meters is sort of what most health experts consider contact, so to speak. So again, what I'm going to try to do is, I'm a big believer in visualization, and I think what I'm going to try to do is teach online. So hopefully you guys can pick up some new things, or you could actually. I'm going to try to attempt to do the things that I'm teaching also solo drill versions. So those of you that are in quarantine or homebound, you cannot go outside, and my heart goes out to people in Italy and China and other countries where you've been quarantined or worse yet. So if people are quarantined, you might be able to do this thing in your living rooms. So I'm going to try to do the technique with Enrique, and then I'm going to try to do it solo. Understand that when you have the body, sometimes when the body is resisting, but also you can use the opponent's body to help you maintain the structure. So that element might be missing, but I'm going to try to point that out as we go through this. I hope the picture and the sound quality is good. Mike is fumbling with the phone. It's driving me crazy because I told him let's use the iPad. We're using my phone because picture quality is better. I believe you're covering one of the cameras, Mike, with the way you placed it. Everything is good then. So, guys, I might be all over the place because those of you that know me, my brain is all over the place. And usually when we do the Roll with the Fox, I have a day or two to prepare, write down all the questions, and work off that. I have some notes, but I scribbled them down. Hopefully I can read them. I'm a big believer in visual absorption. So I strongly recommend, if you're out, if you cannot physically train, it's a good time for those of you who are banged up and just keep training. This is a good time to sort of almost force recovery for 2 weeks, just to take off and take care of those lingering sort of injuries. The other thing is, there is a lot of videos out there, guys. There's a lot of free content. And I do need to mention Bernardo Faria, he has paid content on BJJ Fanatics, but I think yesterday he offered some of his video for free. So guys, take advantage of it. Take advantage of people that are offering things for free, but also, for example, the Tom DeBlas also has a video that's on solo drills. So again, you know, that's right up the alley if you cannot go to an academy. I will attempt to sort of provide daily instruction that's going to be sort of in line with the Roll with the Fox troubleshooting nature, and try to address questions as they come up. So guys, again, this is interactive. Please don't be afraid to ask questions, make comments, and what we're going to do is one more point, guys, that I want to make sure that you understand as far as visualization. A lot of you, if you watch something on Flow Grappling or any other, you know, like a big tournament, and you watch elite guys, and sometimes some of the elite guys are like watching paint dry, where, you know, for 10 minutes there's so little action, but there's that little speed, a little interaction which kind of opens some ideas in your head. But long story short, if you watch videos, if you watch people training, even though you may not be, believe it or not, you're absorbing technique or sort of rolling on a subliminal level. I'm a big believer in it, and I know that a lot of times when I watch something for 6 hours, I'm sitting at a tournament and just watching, you know, things or coaching, you will absorb things on a subliminal level, and it will be reflected in your game. So again, for those of you that cannot train, watch videos, ton of free content. If you want to buy, there's paid content, so it's up to you what your means are, what your goals are. All right, so let's look at let's dive into the instructional thing. So what I'm going to try to do, put the paper away, is try to focus on things that are somewhat more complicated or less complicated. One of the less complicated things that, you know, one of my big things is a guillotine. So when we guillotine somebody from the turtle, this is the movement. I'm driving in. As he pushes back, I fold under. Okay? So that's one of my, you know, go-to moves. You know, there's a lot of sequences. I'm also going to do sort of where the guy flops and we switch into guillotine, into anaconda. So let's look at that. How would I do this on a solo basis? So if you're in your living room, put down a yoga mat, put down anything you can. So I drive in, my foot comes off the ground, I fold gently, and I want to have, you know, this foot is blocking his movement to my right, and the right foot can adjust the angle or can go into the finish. Now, should he flop over or I sweep him, I'm using my head to control his arm, my leg to control his arm, and squeeze. So that's the solo version. So let me do the solo version one more time. That's the solo version of this particular technique. So I drive in, fold, I got the guillotine, he flops over, I use my head or use my leg to compress his arm and switch into anaconda. When I switch into anaconda, my head position should be as such, and squeeze. If you notice that the second time I did this, I actually paid more attention to my head positioning. And again, all these little things are very important, and you can play around with it on yourself. Let's look at another sort of technique that is very important in my mind, and you can drill this solo, okay? So you got a guy that bullfights, and you know, he throws your legs to the side. So it's too late for me to try to turn to him. So as I'm actually going to go with the movement, and I'm going to try to pull him in right into a split guard. Let's look at it again, a little faster this time. So right now I wind up in a good position. Okay? So let's look at it solo. And again, I'm going to try to point out the elements that are important to remember. So you're fighting guard. The guy shoves your legs off to the side. I go to my knees, head on the ground, and my head drags along the ground. I bring the inside leg to make sure that at least I get the inside leg on him. As I'm squaring up to him, I stay on my hip. And I'm going in to get 4 grips. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So again, solo. The guy shoves my legs off to the side. I don't just kind of try to do this. I actually exaggerate that motion to get to my knees, fold, and I'm sitting up into split guard from which I'm going to attack immediately. All right, now let's look at, now we're going to go into something more technical. The stuff I've been playing with in the last couple of weeks, couple of months. We're going to talk about De La Riva X guard. I'm a big fan of this, but now, you know, Enrique has been taking that away from me, so in any true arms race, I have to improve my weapon to beat his defense. All right, so we're going to go over a couple of things, and again, after I go through them with Enrique, I'm going to try to go through what it would look like in a solo basis. This is a little bit more complex movement, and the more complex things are, the harder they are to practice solo, but it can be done. So, Del X. So I'm a big fan of this, all right? So in the past, I used to try to just, you know, get his balance off. The problem is, once my foot went on his knee, he usually would shove it, sit through, and now I'm on the defensive end, okay? So the key again is to keep the right leg flexed, make sure that he cannot do this. Now, ideally, I'd like to sit up. If his feet are close to each other, I can just lift him and sweep, okay? Sometimes that sweep is gonna go over. So as I'm doing this, I push as he comes close. I'm going over my head, and I got a nice sweep. Okay? So if his legs are fairly close, you can do this. The problem is, you know, after a while, the guys start to counter it. So as we're doing this, all right, and I feel like I don't have a good sweep. You see what happened is Enrique is sitting down a bit. So what I'm going to do is disengage. And now, guys, I'm going to lock up, just top lock. I will make adjustments into a triangle or reverse triangle as necessary. All right, so let's look at it again. So I have Del X, you know, I'm trying to sweep. That's not happening. He's kind of pushing me. So what I'm going to do is lock, top lock. Remember, knees to your chest, transition into triangle, or if he's not giving you a triangle, he will almost surely give you a reverse triangle. All right? One more time, please. So, now, if this were a no-gi, I would go Urigatami. All right? As he sits, same thing. Okay? So it doesn't matter, gi or no-gi. So let's look at this technique sort of solo. This is going to be a little more complex. And it's going to be interesting because you have to get your hips up without posting on the guy's hip. That makes it more difficult. But if you can accomplish something more difficult solo, it will become easier when, you know, when you do it live with support. So I have weaved left leg in, right leg in. I have Urigatami, or I have collar and sleeve. Now, I'm going to try to sweep. When I feel the opponent sitting down, maintaining base, I'm going to try to unravel my legs and go into a triangle. That's a solo drill. I know it looks kind of, you know, fairly easy. It's not, guys, because I have to lift my hips without the aid of my left foot posting on his hip. Okay? So again, Del X rather. I weave my left foot in, right. I'm going to sit up, try to sweep. That's not happening. Unravel your legs and lock up a triangle. So that's the solo version of it. I'm already feeling it in my abs, guys. So, Mike, do we have any questions? I know you've been fidgeting with that camera. You're driving me crazy. You better get better by tomorrow.
I got it. Somebody asked if you play reverse De La Riva. I
do, not as much. I do play a reverse De La Riva. Guys, I'm going to be dropping people's names that I just remember as being sort of a bit of experts on that specific technique. Jason Rao from Atzeros is big. But yeah, I do sometimes, you know. So when I will, if I do, I usually wind up going into knee bar. So I do play reverse de la Riva as well. My personal preference is to be on the outside of the guy's body rather than underneath. So if you look at the world of guards, I tend to prefer to be outside. And what I mean by that is sort of outside where, you know, like he's turning his back, so he's exposing his arms, where then there's guys that tend to be underneath, all right, and then inverting underneath. My personal preference, I will use both. My personal preference is to be outside. Okay, so that's some of the things that you could do. The last technique is a little bit more complex. The first two techniques, when we worked on the guillotine and sort of guard recovery, they can be, you know, even if you're a white belt, you can drill them on your own. Let's look at another technique. This one is near and dear to my heart. This is a little more complex. This is off urigatame. Okay, so when I have a good urigatame, which upside down arm lock, and a lot of people get caught with it like right off the bat, and it's over fairly quickly. But the guys that I train with, in particular Enrique, he's managed to come with counters, number one, and I believe I stretched his arm quite a bit. So between those two factors, it's a lot harder for me to submit him. So what's happening is, you know, now I'm coming up with literally answers to specific counters that he's offering. So let's turn this way so they can see your power. So as I sit up for urigatame, he slips. So I normally I try to get my left foot on his hip. Right now my urigatame is almost worthless, and so he slips. He buries his head, and he slips his head. The next move, what he's trying to do is like almost leg drag me, and this is a problem unless I can do this. If I could do that, there's no problem. However, I don't want to be in that position. So as I'm going for this, and I see this happening, what I'm going to do, a lot of times, it depends. If I'm leaning towards his hips, I can still counter. I can still bring the leg over and finish.
Tap.
All right? But a lot of times, if my hips are facing to his hip, and again, the guy that's on the attack, that's what he's trying to do. So I have urigatame, but it's worthless because the way he managed to put his elbow, there's really no breaking power anymore. So the only thing I have is the grip. So I prop up on my elbow, and I just turn.
Tap.
All right? So again, we wind up with an urigatame. He successfully counters. Prop up on the elbow. Bring my right shin on the back of his head. Even if he rolls, this doesn't matter anymore.
Tap.
So that's a counter I've been playing with the last couple weeks. Come close. Oh, you tried to keep the circle of contact. Okay, got it.
For the solo drills.
Yeah. Guys, good idea. He's just outside of circle of contact right now. Problem is, he and I have been training like literally every single day for the last, in Costa Rica we did.
Weeks, yeah.
So, so I think it's a good policy, even if you don't have mandated closures. If you have, people that are high risk groups, you really should keep your circle of contact small. Even if you're not high risk group, I think you should try to minimize it to the essential ones. But again, guys, let's see if we have any questions. How are we doing on time, Mike?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
No questions.
Huh?
No questions.
No questions. Nobody has questions. Guys, if I'm going to keep this up on a daily basis, you better give me some questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to roll with Enrique and then see how many questions come up. Yeah? Come into my circle of contact. So, guys, what I'll do is, let's flow roll, and maybe that's going to generate some questions for tomorrow. All right? I'm going to try to teach a class, but today's lesson is a couple of technical moves that maybe some of you are not familiar with, but also, not just that, but also, guys, work with visual learning, purely visual learning, and 2 solo drills. Those are 2 big areas of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I think are highly underrated. All right, and now one of the biggest things that I've seen in the development of Jiu-Jitsu in the last 10 years is the availability of content. So in this time, it's a good time to take advantage of that, to tap into that content. And I would try to aim for things that you're most interested in or most relevant to you. If you're a white belt that just started training, pick up things that are fundamental basics, defensive in nature. If you're a high-level belt, then try to pick up pieces from guys whose game you'd like to either emulate or have similar game to yours. Yes?
Maurice Gardino asked, how about an attack from half guard without sweeping?
From the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm in half guard, I personally don't like half guard. There are some guys that are amazing at it, and that's the guys you should really look at. But once I'm here, especially if my frame gets collapsed, and as a lot of you know, I have a bad back. I've had a bad back since I was a kid. Once my hips get crushed, the guard pass is coming. Say hello to my little friend. So 5-finger guillotine is one of them. All right. Another one is, so if I wind up in half guard, Enrique tries to pass, I go into split guard with the associated attacks. This is my preferred course of action. Enrique cannot go anywhere. He's quite a bit of pain, and I'm not even using my hands. But anytime if I'm, there's guys like Tom DeBlas has big deep half guard, but I try not to be here. If I'm here, I will try to fight back into full guard. All right. So anytime I may need to just, I'm not a big fan of scorpion sweeps. I've seen too many guys blow their own knees doing it, or the guys on the receiving end. So if I wind up in half guard, I will try to frame, put full guard, and then I go to split guard.
Tap.
All right. So those are sort of the go-to moves from half guard. Again, try to pick up pieces from the guys that tend to specialize in things. I'm not a specialist. I have a lot of good arm lock attacks, a lot of good triangle, especially reverse and inverted. I have a lot of good guillotines, anacondas. I have a lot of knee bars. So I have a pretty good repertoire of submissions and techniques. But, like for example, Darren Ball is not, I will use it, but I do it differently. I try to just sweep people with it. I don't try to invert so deeply and hunt for the back, because sometimes that can be used against you. But again, try to pick up things from guys that are specialists in that specific area. You will pick up a lot of knowledge.
Henry Hahn asked, for the rolling guard recovery, aren't you exposing your back?
No. I will show. We go live now. Double live. It's just how well you do this. Quite contrary, Enrique exposes back. Let's do it again. reason for that is I know I'm more warmed up than he is because I got here earlier and I warmed up, he didn't. But the reason for that is as you're doing this, you're constantly changing angles, okay? As the he's moving forward in a straight line usually and trying to drop in on you. So you're changing two things, angles and your height, okay? And the height, that's why it's so important for you. So I'm not doing this. Yeah, this will expose your back. Because even though I changed the angle, I didn't change my height. So as I'm doing this, I'm changing angles. So I'm going from lined up in this line to more perpendicular. Look how high my butt is. And I'm actually exaggerating. I'm curling up my back like a cat would when it's pissed off. All right? Because that artificial kind of arching of your back, that adds another couple inches. So as he's dropping in, he's not quite controlling you. All right? So again, so he's coming. So he wants to drop in right here. This is where he wants to come in on. But I'm changing the angle, height, and now I'm coming out in a completely different angle. So that's the reason, to me, this is one of those very simple techniques that if you do well, it's going to save your butt many times training. Again, the critical things are changing the angle, changing the height. Do not bring your head up. So we're not doing this. This is wrong. He will be top cross side or on your back. Second thing is, you cannot be doing this. That can get you choked. So keep your head low. So as this happens, he throws my legs to the side. So he wants to just come in here. I'm changing the angle. All right, he's right here. He just dropped in on me, and I'm already changing back. And now I'm in that scramble. I'm starting to go back after him. I hope that makes sense.
Shayna Williams asks, will you please show the 5-finger guillotine one more time?
That we will serve tomorrow. But I will show it again. Hi, Shayna. I miss Costa Rica already. So. It's even easier no gi. Maybe tomorrow we do no gi. All right?